Okay, now I was going to try to do this a few different ways, but this is gonna have to be the other way. Okay. Okay, got it. I am filming from two different angles. One of them, which is the vertical, and the other one is the horizontal. So I think the reason why I wanted to do this discussion is because I have personally also have had problems on social media myself, and without me placing the position of blockers into my channel, it was a long time until I realized that the blockers actually did exist. But the reason why it's so quiet on my channel and people are not commenting as much is because I've put down strict rules as to what people are allowed to do on here and what people are not allowed to do on here. So I think it's important to understand that this is a situation where I've had to learn how to navigate, how to use social media, and understand the back end of the platforms and to be able to do something like this, right? So this is like a whole thing. Now, I don't know why the light is not great here, but we will work with it. It's slightly dim. Let me see if I can adjust this. Lighting on your, okay. Let's see if that makes a difference. I don't think it made much of a difference. But I'm basically coming on here because I thought it was important to go into the question of, parents are concerned about their kids' safety online, and I absolutely agree, because I was teaching music in like a music school, and I had taught kids in like music schools basically how to A, obviously protect themselves, and B, I had some really good students. I was very lucky to have students that listened to me and observed and learnt, and I gave them stuff to do, right, to be able to get to where they are with the music. For instance, I'm on two different sides. This is the vertical, and then the horizontal is the other side. So I'm testing it out. But I'm talking about safety online because I've noticed, even when I was doing things on TikTok and Facebook, there was always that concern in the back of my head. Is somebody going to say something about me? Is somebody going to give me a nasty attitude about stuff that's going on? Come to your. And I finally realized, you know what, they have on the platforms, they actually do have situations where they have certain people, online social media has certain rules. You cannot do things like harass people online without having ramifications of what actually could happen in the end, right? So that's one of the things that they have on their end. And on our side, specifically on Facebook, they had that as well. They actually have a list of things you can go down on, and you can actually say, how can you block this person? These are the type of things that you can look after: harassment, the R stuff, all sorts of things. There are things you can actually do to hold ground on your side, right? But you need to understand that social media is also technology. So you need to be tech savvy to make sure. Do you see this, Dior? Here, I have Dior on this side. You can see him on the other screen. If you want to go to the other screen, it's longer. You can see him over there. The tech side. Let me just see. And it's just important to know that I really do like the fact that YouTube actually has a whole bunch of things that keep the safety of your side. Like, for instance, if you have a platform and you're working on your platform, the reason why it's so quiet on my channel is because I've put blockers in it. And I've put them in specifically because I have actually had problems being harassed online and having issues in the past. And I'm like older than a lot of the other people, so it probably had an age factor here as well, right? So it's just important to be aware that just because people think that they have a right to be like rude and like give like clout and all that stuff doesn't mean to say that there isn't ramifications for the individual that goes through that process. There actually is. And if people try to comment on here that are rude and not very nice, I'm not going to see anything because I've blocked myself from those options, right? So I've learned how to use the platforms to protect myself on my side. Now, I do think that parents should be more consistent, like they should be cognizant of knowing the back end of the platforms, like learn the technology, understand to read like the instructions. Like I always tell people, I used to make furniture in university, right? I made furniture, I came out with my fingers. There were some people who were not as lucky because they didn't follow the instructions. If somebody said use a circular saw, okay, you don't put a circular saw with just the piece of wood. You have to make sure that the circular saw goes through that, but you have to have like another piece of wood to push the wood through before you hit the circular saw, because if you don't do that, the rest of the pieces over here are not going to be protected. So I personally have made furniture in university. That was part of what I did for the arts, right? And I always go back to this whole subject of IKEA. Everybody always complains, oh, we can't read the IKEA instructions. I was like, you have to learn how to read the IKEA instructions, because if you don't learn the IKEA instructions, how are you going to master understanding how to put things together in general? The same thing applies for social media. If you're going to do social media, learn the back end. Understand what you need to do to protect yourself online, because I've gone through it, and I'm sure other people have gone through it too. Welcome in, folks. Thank you for popping over. I do appreciate it. On the other screen, it's basically the same live, but I'm using one which is horizontal, and then the other is vertical. And I have just found that it's a lot easier to be your own moderator than to stress out about people trying to fight online because they think that they have a right to be like cloudy and give attitude, because that's what pushes the aggression is what pushes the videos out and all that stuff, which is absolutely. Hi, welcome in. Isabel. Welcome in, Isabel. Is that your name? Welcome in. Yes, no, I'm talking about everybody's safety, because as a former instructor I'm still an instructor, but as an instructor online, I feel it's so important for people to feel safe, right? You have to feel safe in the environment. You don't want to be uncomfortable and stressed out because when somebody fights with you online, it's supposed to make them feel good and make you feel bad because you're being pushed out. Whereas actually the person who's doing that is hurting their pages. So if they're trying to like do anything crazy and dramatic, they're actually putting themselves in a position where they can be taken off the platform completely. So they can do whatever they want to do to create drama, but they should also know that the drama can also get them into a lot of trouble in the end. So on my side, where I have been in the situation where people have tried to start arguments with me or tell me like I'm not like a musician, or I look the wrong part for being whatever it is that I'm doing at the time, that is definitely the approach that somebody who is unaware of repercussions basically engages as, right? So you're not supposed to engage as somebody that's being destructive. You're supposed to be constructive. And I'm here to be constructive, not destructive. So I wanted to kind of put that into consideration, that people, when you're getting online, don't just leave it up to the universe. You know, everybody says, oh, this person said this about me and they said that I was ugly and all this stuff and I looked a certain way. You guys can also take control of this. Take control of this, learn the back end, learn how YouTube works. TikTok is a little different, a little bit of a different story. I was not good with TikTok. I had my own little things with TikTok. But Facebook, there's a little bit of like a control system and mechanism they have in the back end. So even though parents are right, it's important to understand that social media could be a problem. There is a way you can take control. You can learn the technology and understand the back end of how the systems work. Learn the systems, whatever your kids are doing. Get on the system, see what it is, analyze what they're doing in the back, understand the format, know how to read instructions, learn what it's about on social media as well. Okay, so I feel as if it's both sides. Parents should help the kids out with understanding how social media works, and the kids should also listen to parents, and together they should learn how the technology of how the back end and the system works, and to protect yourself, because that is like the first and foremost part of the process, right? It's important to make sure that you feel safe and secure. I cannot have conversations like this if I was not aware that I have now technically reformatted my page, right? I've reformatted my page to be able to be secure and know that I have strategy behind the process of why it's so quiet on here. If you go on my videos, you can see I have like just a few comments because I've blocked people from saying horrible, nasty things. Okay, there, you can do that. So when I see people like getting on the lives or videos in general, and they freak out about, oh, this person said something so horrible, they're bringing their perception on what happens on TikTok onto YouTube. And I think YouTube is a little bit smarter than that. They know that the system can be reworked according to your safety as the individual. Okay, so you don't have to be, one doesn't have to be panicking and freaking out about how social media works, but how you can refigure it for your own protection, right? So that's another thing people don't really talk about is, do you see? Here's Seor. Another thing people don't always talk about is how to refigure and reconstruct the platforms to keep the safety for your own personal sake, right? So there are many ways to create an adaptable environment so that you feel secure. It's no longer just about how to keep the kids safe, but how the parents and the kids and the people who are trying to create the problems understand how the technology works behind the scene, because you're having to navigate in a world of technology now that we live in. And I lived in an environment where we didn't always have technology. I mean, I had technology when technology came out, right? After I had gone to college. College, like the bachelor's degree was in 2000 and something, 1990 something. The first part of technology I did was typing and music production, because the production equipment and the DAWs were always out there. So that was like part of my technology skills. And then we shifted when I was in university at the Corcoran. We then shifted to graphic design and photography. Photography back then, we had manual cameras. We did not have like digital cameras or the iPhone. So I learned how to do things manually before I jumped into understanding how technology worked, because as soon as technology came out, I was learning the next technology skill like everybody else does. We learn how to do it. So the question is, are people willing and prepared to build an IKEA table or a chair and learn to read instructions? Or are people going to just look at this IKEA table and chair and say, oh, IKEA has like, we can't read it because it's too complicated? Like, The problem is, if the complication is with not understanding how to read the instructions, the problem is not the instructions. It might be the person that's reading the instructions that doesn't understand how to read it. So you have to reverse the circumstance. If you're going to be, I think parents can have control of this situation. Parents do have the capabilities of understanding how technology functions. You just need to learn the back end and understand how to maintain the platforms. TikTok, as I said, I think TikTok is just off the rails. I'm not a fan of TikTok personally. I've done it. I've been on there. I've tested it out. I've analyzed the back end, and I just think that it's a complete train wreck. I think Facebook, it has a couple of back end things that you can learn, but you really need to be a little bit more technical with Facebook. You need to go into the back, analyze how it works on the back end, and then figure out how to block certain things. On YouTube, it's actually kind of a lot more straightforward than both the Facebook implementation and whatever TikTok is doing. I don't know how Instagram works, but I definitely know that YouTube is indeed one of the best platforms to keep a stable, focused, organized environment that you have control over. Like, I have complete control. There's not one person that can come in here on either one of my I have a horizontal and vertical on either one of these situations and say anything horrible or nasty, because I've now blocked them from responding in a very negative and derogatory way. This is what I'm talking about. If you can set it up and you can kind of create a space where it's safe and secure, you're going to be much better off on learning the tools and applying them on places like YouTube. Facebook, as I said, I learned it. I figured it out. I was not so impressed, but I'm sort of a little impressed about how YouTube actually does work, because I've been experimenting, testing out how it does work in the back end, because I'm always curious. At 46, I'm 46. At 46 years old, I am always curious about how certain things work. I will always figure out the piece of puzzle that needs to be added to make sure that all the pieces are intact for this puzzle to hang properly, right? And when I was building we had a rabbit at one point. And this rabbit, it was like she was wandering around. She didn't come from anywhere. Our fur baby found him. Dior found him. And in the garden, you can see the whole story on my channel. It's actually a video that's on the channel that I discuss about this rabbit. And in one of the videos, you see me building this rabbit hutch, right? Like a little rabbit house. I had nobody here to watch me do it. I learned how to build furniture. So I know that the instructions that they give are actually relatively easier than to actually build a piece of furniture, like a table or a desk or, I don't know, a door. A door might be easier, but like a table, a desk, by hand. Like, I learned how to build these things with the tools and design the furniture pieces. So I had to create my own maps to create the furniture, to put the furniture together. Whereas IKEA already has the furniture pieces. It's already built the stuff, and you just have to you have to just put it back together again with what they've already done. So just imagine coming from a university, where I actually had to learn how to build these furniture pieces over an IKEA piece. For me, it's like, you give me an IKEA piece and it's like super easy. It's like, I will put it together and I won't even ask anybody to help. And I hear so many people arguing about, oh, this IKEA, we can't put it together. We don't know what we're doing. Because you guys are not reading instructions. If you read the instructions, it'd be much easier to read. The same thing applies for technology. If you read the instructions and how to put it together, it's going to be easier to maintain and stabilize your platforms so nothing can enter unless it's positive. That's the point. Like, you can be positive about the situation and be able to have conversations like this without people arguing, because I've now put myself in a position where I've blocked the negativity. And there are ways to do it, especially on YouTube. I mean, if you're on TikTok and Facebook, I recommend just moving right back onto YouTube, because I don't think the other platforms are as secure. I've tested it out, I've seen how it works on here, and I really do think that if you reconfigure, it's like a website. If you reconfigure the website according to what it is you want it to work as, it will work according to the way you want it to work. It's simple. But I think if people are not reading instructions and not prepared to take the effort and the energy to learn how to do it on the back end, you're going to stumble and then stress out about all these people trying to fight you, because everybody wants to make like somebody that's moving up on YouTube or any other platform to go viral, and they think that being viral or going viral means making a fuss on their page, getting them all stressed out, and then in the end they're upset, right? The person that's trying to, not even, they didn't even want to go viral in the first place. It just happened to happen, right? It's happened to me once before, or 2 times before, and it didn't faze me. But I was a little upset when I saw what people were reading and commenting, only to realize that this is not on. This is like this negative approach to thinking going viral and being disruptive is the way to. There are a couple of different ways to go viral. You don't have to do it the way everybody else does it. You can do it in a more subtle, responsible way, and protect the people around you at the same time. So you have a choice. Do you want to go viral and then have people complain about, oh, they've like made a mess out of my page? Or do you want to take action and use that knowledge that we know everybody tries to be disruptive on the lives, or not the lives, but on videos to push people out, and they think they're helping? They're not helping. They're only helping because platforms, unfortunately, platforms do encourage pushing videos out that have lots of comments. But there is a way to resolve the issue of negative comments. You can have as many comments as you like, but the comments don't have to be negative. And if they are negative, in most cases, you could be in a situation like what I've done here, and you just block the people that are negative. And they're going to have repercussions on their end. So, you can play by the rules that a person sets up on their own channel, or you can just disrupt completely and then make a mess out of your own page. So the whole point is to learn how to use the technology for your own benefits. Learn the skills. I was like teaching in like a couple of music schools and art places. So I'm coming from a background as an instructor, as a teacher. And somebody that's taught students in classrooms. I am so lucky to have had really, 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 really good students. Like, they were focused, they were organized, they were managed, they understood what they were doing, they had like a goal and a direction. I was definitely honored. I'm so happy that I've had that experience. But I know that there's schools and environments that does not happen, and it's partly because people allow the kids to go off the rails. They allow the kids to do things whenever they want to. I've lived in 5 different countries. I grew up in 5 different countries, meaning I've gone to like 4 different locations for education. And I can tell you something right now, living in the United States, going to school here, learning what's going on with the newer generation, to my experience studying in a private girls' school. I went to a private girls' school, hey? Private girls' school, private Anglican girls' school on top of that. So it was like a religious Anglican. Then you had, I think the first time I learned or experienced a public school was probably in the States. We always had uniform overseas. I wore a uniform. We had uniform all the time. We had to listen to instructions. The teachers were very, very strict. We could not go off the rails because we were scared that, I don't know, we could be sent to boarding school and never be brought back home. So, okay, so we had other things to worry about. We don't want to be sent to boarding school. That was never a thing that I ever wanted to experience. So I got a little scared. I was a little concerned about those kind of questions. But the way the education system works should be, I think everybody talks about the United States and the schools and how parents and teachers should behave and respond to students. The first thing you learn is how to deal with kids from home. If the kids are misbehaving in school, most likely something is happening at the house. So that's my experience as somebody who knows how young people's minds work, because I was teaching them how to do music and arts, and maybe even sometimes technology. If they wanted to learn music production, I was on this, I'm going to teach these young people how to, if they're women, if they're young vocalists who are learning how to sing music, I was always like, young ladies, this is how we're going to do things now. We are women. We are young women. And you have to protect yourself in an environment that vocalists as females are not always as protected. So my solution and conclusion to how those young ladies would protect themselves is to learn the technology of how to use music equipment, so they didn't have to panic about going to somebody else's place. They could do it from home and produce their own music. So it's very important to be aware that, you know, it's all about how you build skills starting from your home. If you're using social media, I think it's important to learn how social media works from the back end. Don't just see all these people successfully making it online and thinking that whatever's going on in their pages, if you go to some of their pages, I've seen some people leave some really horrible messages and nasty messages. I'm like, this could be resolved. We don't have to be stressed out. I was already there before I learned how to use the platforms properly, like YouTube. I had people leaving horrible comments and saying nasty things, and I was like, I'm done. I'm finished. I'm never going to do this again. Until I learned that there were ways around this and you could actually protect yourself from the back end, and learning the technology of how it actually works from that angle. So don't think we're doomed. We're not doomed. If we just team up and learn how to use the technology, the safer we are on a platform like YouTube, the better it is for the youth and generations, and for our safety. For our safety. I'm an older person. I don't necessarily have kids. I have a fur baby who's sleeping right now. Hi, Dior. Hi. It's hot, right? And it's just important to be aware that it starts from home. Literally, it starts from home. If you want to protect your kids, start with understanding how the technology works. Start with learning. If you don't know how to use it, ask your kids. They might even actually help you learn how to use it. But it starts from learning how to implement these tools to protect yourself on a larger scale. I was also a lifeguard for the US Embassy in Tokyo. So lifeguarding and protecting people was what I generally did in general. So that was part of my life, okay? I worked in the embassy as well. So government related work back in the day, not anymore. I'm sort of like over the phase of working in an office space. I appreciate, this is nice. You have your space, you can like have a conversation, and then you don't have to panic about other people coming in and asking you to get them a cup of coffee, or going and getting and organizing these papers, because, you know, all that stuff. It was okay at the time. I learned skills. That was important. But coming from somebody who studied, who learned how to do lifeguarding for the US Embassy, I feel that protecting people, not just from saving them from the pole or whatever it is that you're dealing with, but saving them from life, from doomsday in itself, is so much more important than to just panic and say, oh, social media is like the worst thing on earth. Rather, reverse it and say, what can we do on our ends to protect ourselves and the kids? If they are using it, how do we learn to use it better? What is it that we can implement to help us keep ourselves safe? I'm doing it. I've put blockers in, I've done all sorts of things, and I'm only a one-person show. I don't have a whole team. It's just me. And if I can do it, yeah. Now, I think it's What is my expertise? I have plenty. I'm 46 years old. So I've had many, many jobs. I worked in government at some point. I worked in the visa department for the US Embassy in South Africa. I worked in like music schools. I've worked in art places. I have 2 degrees, a bachelor's and a master's. I've gone through the whole thing. I have lots of qualifications. You can actually, if you're interested, you guys can take a look on my profile, and my profile can scroll down and you can see a Wix site. The Wix site directs you directly to my resume. So if you're interested to see what I've actually done and what I'm still doing, feel free. I leave it up to the public to see what I do. I'm not hiding anything. That's what I deal with. So I feel if we are going to be very conscious about how, like these kids are not being protected, it's not just how social media is not protecting the kids, but also how us as parents are protecting the kids too. By learning the systems, by understanding the technology, by understanding how this is actually working. Congratulations. Yes, I can. La Maha, is that right? La Maha Williams? Congratulations. I'm glad that is so good news. Great stuff. Keep going. Keep going. I have 2 degrees. It's very important. Education is so important. What is it that you learned? What was your, what did you graduate as? Very, very cool. Very cool. Keep up the great work. Yeah, no, I always, this whole discussion on how social media is destroying the kids. True, but let's reverse the subject. The whole point is, how can parents protect them if they are going to use social media? We need to learn how it works on the back end. The more people learn how to do what I've just done and put blockers on and make sure that you're protected and set up your page according to professionalism, the better it is and the better chances of you being protected on a longer scale. And the more people know about this, the more the news can spread and the more people can be aware that you can actually do it on your own, on your page, to protect yourself as well. It's not just a platform. We have to learn. We have to learn how to use these skills. I'm learning as I go along. I wanted to get on TikTok to learn how the system worked. Now I know it. I did the TikTok shop and I was like, I'm done. I've learned what I need to learn. Now I'm out. Then I also did Facebook and I got monetized on Facebook and I was like, okay, what is it that I'm doing that allowed me to get monetized on Facebook? And I was like, I'm done with Facebook. Now I'm on YouTube because I find that YouTube is a lot more professional. And it's almost like a website. If you go onto my page, my front page, the front of the page, I've now constructed my front of my page where you have playlists and you can move things around on your page. I'm using both my iPhone and my iPad, so I can't really show you right now. But if you take a look on my page, I didn't actually put the link down. I'm sorry about that. If you take a look on my page, you can see what I've done. I have my websites that I've built, okay, at the top with the bio. I talk about my bio. Then you can go into my page and you can see how I've kind of developed the videos. Some playlists are music, some playlists are about business, some playlists are about the art, and then some about fashion. But these are all things you can control. The reason why I'm doing this is to show that you can have the control of the space as much as you can, especially YouTube. Like I said, I personally feel safer on YouTube than I do on the other platforms because I know that I have the complete control that I need to protect myself and protect other people from having doomsday experiences on here. And I personally think it's working. I think kids introduce them to early adult content. Well, I would not do that. I would definitely, if you're dealing with all of that stuff, I'm not allowed to talk about it on there. I would stay away from it. I would find ways to, They're getting into the systems. What you need to do is put blockers. Another thing, you can actually, if you have all the systems and the equipment in your house, and that is the problem, you go in and you block those particular pages. That can be done on your side as well. So don't just, I think you have to just, this is a conversation about what the parents can do on a professional level. It's just taking control of the environments and the systems, literally. If there is something that you need to block, go into the settings, find all their phones, computers, whatever it is that they're using, and turn it off. Because back in my day, there were like things called magazines. We didn't have this kind of stuff. So I think our time was a little bit different. I mean, it was a bit of a different story when I was growing up, right? I think with our circumstance right now that we're experiencing on social media, the best thing to do in situations like that is to make sure that you're looking at their phones. Go into their phones. Don't be afraid. Don't give them a phone. If they're too young, don't do. I would just stall completely. If I had a child and my child said, "Mom, I want a phone at the age of 6, I would say, absolutely no way, Jose. And me, I'm 46. When I got my first, this is the funny part, I got my first iPhone at 32. At 32, we didn't even have an iPhone. There was no such thing as an iPhone at my age. At 32, that's my first, yes. The phone should be, take them away from the kids. Step number 1, don't give them at a young age, you know? I think that is the biggest thing, is people assume that the kids are, I didn't have a phone until I was much older. we had flip phones, we had the Motorola, but they didn't have like, the Motorola did not have access to larger things like the internet. It wasn't so big and so vast. Now it's like a whole universe, right? So the iPhones need to be, just cut them out. Remove them from your kid's life. Tell them to go out and play in the garden. You know, go swimming. Go to the gym. Go exercise with your friends. Go for a bike ride. You know, do some healthy kid stuff. Do horse riding. Do something. You know, these phones, I mean, it just depends on the circumstance. But I do think if the kids do have a phone and you have the access and you know that this is what they're doing, you should definitely, you know, take them away, but also make sure that your internet access blocks, because I think you can do that, right? Your internet could actually block certain sites from the inside of your computer, inside of your internet. So you should be able to, as an individual adult or parent, should have that capability, right? That's also important. So bear in mind, okay, don't give the kids the phone at a young age. Number 1, that would be like the worst problem. And number 2, I would not recommend. I would just make sure that if you have internet access, go into the main system, which you should be able to, and then block those particular things that you're concerned about. Simple. And whatever the kids are talking about, if you hear something that sounds weird, just tell them, hey, we have ears and eyes everywhere. Don't talk about these kind of things, because we just know. We know, we're watching you, we have eyes in the back of our heads. But like I said, when I had my students, I still have a student. I had some pretty incredible students. I was so honored to have kids that were respectful and polite and well-mannered, and some of them were from overseas, coming from overseas to the United States, and I was delighted. I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, and they're looking at me, they're like, so what are we going to learn from music? And I'm like, what do you guys want to learn? They all put their hands up, they say classical. I'm like, classical music? Are you guys okay? Are you feeling okay? So I found myself teaching these young people classical music out of all things. I was like, I thought they were going to choose like R&B and jazz. No, they went straight to the classical. So I had some pretty remarkable students. I will have to say that I was very lucky to have that circumstance. But I know some people do not necessarily have that kind of luck. I just happen to be extremely lucky to have some great students. I can thankfully say that. Thank goodness. But it also starts from home. So the best way to, and it's important for parents to listen to kids too. Hey, I know that I listen. If a student said that they had a problem or they're feeling sad or unhappy, I would sit down and ask them, what is the problem? Are you feeling okay? What is the situation? Why are you so sad? Who said what? And you sit down and you listen to them. You don't fight with them. Fighting is just going to cause more problems. You sit down and you listen to your kids, because I find that that's the best way to interact. They don't want to fight. I know that when I taught students, the reason why they listened to me is because I didn't argue or tell them what to do. I sat there and I listened to them. And when they were upset, I would sit there and listen to them. It was just something innately, a responsibility I thought that was important to do, is to finally just sit and listen to the kids as well. Because there might be something that's wrong, and they're acting up, and they're just not telling you what it is. And then when you finally sit down and ask them in a really nice way, they might tell you what it is, right? So that's one thing. But also make sure that the kids, put the blockers on. Learn, if they are going to have the phones, learn what the platforms do. Get in there and have like even your own setup. Set your own platforms up if you need to, and go in and learn how the systems work. Because I think if I hadn't known or gone in to check out how all of them worked from the inside, I would never have known, right? So now I'm like more equipped and knowledgeable about how they work, to be able to understand, so I can have a conversation like this and talk about what you can do to protect yourself. So that's like I think that's like the major discussion, is that I found that it was important to realize that there are things as grown-ups, I'm a grown-up, I'm 46, we should be doing as grown-ups, right? So that's, I don't leave it up to the universe to say this is how it's going to be and this is what's going to happen on social media. Get in there and learn what's going on, so you can see in the back end how the systems work. Systems are also set up by people. And if the people who have the stuff that use it, that don't know how to use it, they're going to have problems in the end. Technology it moves very quickly. I mean, I'm looking at YouTube. And YouTube updated stuff too. So you want to make sure that you're keeping up with the technology. That's another thing. People think that technology is just going to stop. No, technology constantly builds and grows and changes so quickly half the time you don't even realize that it's happening. So you want to make sure you're keeping up with technology as well. You always keep up with technology. I try to keep up with what the kids probably are learning right now. I don't play video games, but I like my music production equipment. So I'm all about production, and the music you're hearing in the background is stuff that I've produced. So you can even go onto my SoundCloud. I don't have a lot of things on the SoundCloud because now this whole like AI music thing is just kind of freaking me out a little bit. So I kind of reduce the amount of music that I've put out there, and I use it generally for my YouTube channel, because I feel if I'm going to have like music, you want to make sure that you own the rights to the music. And the best way to do that is to show YouTube that you're actually producing the music yourself. So the lives actually do help with that that format, right? So yeah, I think that's the most important thing. But I do think it's important that parents should learn how the systems work. Because without learning the systems, we can complain and argue and fight and say it's all the social media's fault. But in fact, we're not taking our chances and learning what it's about and how we can do something from our side to protect ourselves and the kids. And I'm all about protecting kids. Hey, I had my students and I made sure those kids were like up to scratch, taught them like everything they know at the stage with music and composition and reading music. So for me, it was like it's a big thing. I want to make sure the kids are going to be okay too. But I also want to make sure that the parents know that you got to go in there. You got to learn the technology and figure it out like they are. That's why they're doing it. They're curious. The kids are curious. The kids want to learn. So they're trying everything they can to learn whatever it is that they can learn to make it so they're growing with the technology. Just like they grow with technology, we should be learning the same thing. We should be growing with technology as well. So I think that's the biggest takeaway with this conversation is that only people who are going to say positive things on my channel can enter and have a conversation with me. All the other things are automatically blocked because I've used blockers to protect and use words that should not be allowed on my channel. I have, like, and YouTube will tell me, hey, they're hiding a comment, right? I can see them. If there's a comment that's hidden, it will say the comment has been hidden or hidden for revision. Okay, so you can see on your side. If you know how to use the tools, you should be able to block those unusual, strange behavioral things that are happening. Okay, so it's all about learning the mechanisms that are making these things happen. The social media shouldn't be controlling us. We should be controlling the social media. And the way you learn to control the social media is to learn how the systems work. Okay, that's step number one, coming from somebody who has taught kids, who has had some very fantastic students. I will have to say they were absolutely wonderful. And knows the concerns that the parents have, and then also know how the kids are, because I was teaching in the school, so I know how that feels. But I think it's important to acknowledge that there are so many things you need to do you have to learn the IKEA skill. You gotta, like, if I were to hire people one day, I wouldn't just have people coming in for an interview. I would literally set an IKEA project on the table and say, okay, we have 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I want you to put together that IKEA piece of furniture in 30 minutes. If it is not done in 30 minutes, I'm not going to call you back for the second interview, because I already know that people's fear is to learn how to read the instructions. And that just doesn't just go for a piece of IKEA furniture. It goes for everything. People forget to read the instructions on social media. People forget to read the instructions on IKEA. People forget to read the instructions on if you're having to apply for something like unemployment. There are instructions to read. You need to go through all the... If you're learning, or if you're learning to drive, you got to read the instructions and take a test before you get your driver's license. The same thing applies. It's all there. You have to pass the test in order to actually be approved. That's like a big thing. Same thing here. You got to pass the test of knowing the skills and understanding how this works to be approved to move forward. I don't think there's no way around reading instructions. People just need to read instructions. It's just so simple. Yeah. So there are all these things that I just feel as somebody who had taught the students, I just felt like it's important because it is a big thing on social media right now, and everybody's talking about it, and people are going to court because all of this stuff is going down because of protecting the kids. But it's not just about protecting the kids from social media, like I say. It's protecting them from the inside. If they are going to use social media, learn the skills, learn the tools, understand what this thing does. Why is this so powerful? What is the reason why the social media has certain things? If you are prepared not to rush to become the world's most famous person in the entire universe, you can slow your heart pace down, relax a little bit, and focus on how to use the tools. I think sometimes at some point, somebody created the rules and thought the rules were going to be like, that's the way to go because they saw the movement. But I think there is another way around this. I don't think you need to have a viral video to be successful. Sure, virality is great, but at the same time, like I said, I had experienced it before. You can make more money. Let's put it this way, okay? Let's put it into perspective. You can make more money selling a product in one day. You can sell 3 items in one day on something like Depop or Poshmark or Etsy or IKEA than you could make after you reach 1,000 views on a full-on video that pops off and then finally reaches 100,000. What, you make about like 300 to 400 per video that reaches a certain. You could make the same amount of money selling your own products or more in a day instead of panicking about trying to go viral. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. I just feel as if people have a very different perspective on where you can make money. There are many ways to make money. It doesn't just have to be here. I'm on here, but I'm not generating money on YouTube, okay? I generate money doing other things. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not making money doing this. Maybe one day it will happen, but I'm putting out my skills and my knowledge and trying to help people understand how certain things work. So maybe if one day you guys use these skills, I've done my job and I've helped people out, because that's what I like to do. I like to help people to make sure everybody's protected and safe. But as you can see, it's quiet. Look at this. I have conversations here, and obviously it's slightly empty here on the landscape version because we know that the two sides are slightly different from how it processes, right? But I do know that right now we're having a positive conversation here. There's no, like, people are not sending, like, when I didn't have these, let me tell you right now, when I didn't have my conversation notes that held back bad judgment or talks, I just knew, like, the bad behavior started coming over and it stressed me out, and I didn't feel good after it. So I knew that I needed to do something for myself so I could feel okay if I am going to do this, okay on the platform, so I could finish what I had intended on doing. So if I can do it, and I learned how to use the skill, the platform or the platforms, anybody can. It's just it's a mind over matter. Mind over matter. If you have the will, there's going to be a way. That's just how it is. You have to learn the skills before you take the car out to drive it by yourself. Same thing. Social media is the same way. You have to learn the skills. Take a test first before you get onto social media. There should be an exam. There you go. They do have exams. Social media actually does have exams. They have exams so people are safe on the platforms. Facebook had courses, TikTok had courses, and YouTube has courses. So there are courses you could actually take to learn it. And each one works a little bit differently. So just, think about the process. If your kid's going to use the platforms, before the kid gets on the platform, actually even before that, don't even give them a phone if they're under a certain age. That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, I only had my first. We lived without phones back in the day. Okay, we did not have phones. I'm a Gen Xer. Okay, we had to make do with what we had. That's how we survived. And if something happened to your friend and we had no proof, you would have to report to the parents to tell them what happened to the friend. Okay, so it was like word of mouth. It was like, it was life like no other. Like you had things you needed to do to make sure that everybody stayed safe and secure as a team, and that's how it worked. Now it's like you have social media, so it's the easy way out. It shouldn't be. If your kids are like under the age of 13 or 14, I would say give the kids the phone. If once they hit 17 or 18, maybe. Okay, that's my personal take. If I was 32 and I could survive, if I was 32 and got my first iPhone at 32, I survived 32 years without a phone, without an iPhone. I had a flip phone, and we had something that looked like a walkie-talkie and a big cell phone. Like, you would walk around the house with this huge phone. So our phones were a little bit different, but we survived without it. Okay, we survived without technology. So it's just a matter of being aware that life changes, technology moves quickly, and it's just a matter of keeping up with the technology. I think that's the most important part, is to keep up with the technology. If we're going to have social media and it's not going away, we just need to control the environment and the situation a little bit better and learn the skills of how the platforms actually work. Go into the back end, learn how it actually is put together. Maybe a little bit of the history of YouTube would also be good to learn. I mean, or maybe the history of Facebook and the history of Instagram and the history of, before you get into, like, have an instruction manual. Go in and get the instruction manual of each one of these platforms and read them. Go in with your kids and sit down and read the instructions with the kids. There are instructions you can read. There are classes you can take from their platforms. Don't just panic because everybody's panicking, but take action right now in your spaces. Take action right now, and you can control the environment. I have officially controlled my space. I have made my space clean of disruption, right? I've figured out the mechanisms. I've learned how to, it might push me a little bit slower, but at the same time, it keeps me safer. So if your kids are panicking about, oh, we want to make a viral video, just tell them, hey, do you want $100 from a viral video? Or would you like to sell 3 items that could make you $400 on a platform that's like Depop? Or, like, give them something to do. Find something they can do to make money with, right? Don't just have them think that it's the most incredible thing to go on social media and go viral just to make $100, maybe even less, depending on the situation. I know that I reached 40,000 views on Flip, and I made $74, and I was like, this is kind of cool. But on the same day that was going on, my Poshmark, I sold one piece for $300. So I was like, which one is better? Let's, like, what is it called? 6, 7. Which one is better? You should, like, weigh the options, right? Exactly. Weigh the options. Which is better? Selling an item you can make money off of in one day, keep the kids busy, find something for them to do to earn money from home, which it can absolutely be done. Or you have them think that this viral experience is the she's knees, which I have to say, since I've already been there, it isn't the she's knees, because you have to constantly push your videos out to go viral, to make it happen, so that you can feel confident you're going to earn that other $100. Where you could just do the same thing, make the same amount of money doing other things. I mean, I remember when I was 14 years old, I was babysitting, and the first time I got that $60 from babysitting was just the most incredible thing. The kids can find money elsewhere. They don't have to, and even adults, you can find money elsewhere. You don't have to, like, assume that viral is the answer. I think at this stage we're kind of slowing down. I think social media has slowed down, and everybody's literally, like, realizing the excitement, because it's now old news, right? Like, if you're going to use social media, use it wisely. Like, I know that if you do social media, the best way to do this, if you're going to do like a YouTube, build on those landscapes. This is great for the engagement and the interaction, but on this other side, there's a landscape. And that landscape video is going to outlast any day. these vertical videos. So weigh the options. Like, I know that this is like the most popular side, the vertical, right? Because this gets the most views and it's the easiest to find on a camera or a phone or whatever. But at the same time, this is what creates problems, because you also get this on Facebook, you also get the vertical on TikTok, and then people bring all of the vertical like impressions from those platforms onto here, and then it becomes like this huge bonanzas of a problem. It's not the same thing. It's different. YouTube has a different mechanism. I think because it is the oldest of the social media platforms, it's very aware of what is available to protect yourself. Right. So I think I think that's my talk for today. Hi, Dior. Is it hot? You're hot? You okay? Are you enjoying taking apples? Yeah. Oh, it's hot today. It's 90 degrees. Very hot in our place, in our location. So yeah, I think that was just a brief talk. I think it's important that the awareness doesn't just come with how social media should be transformed, but also how the parents and the kids, if they are going to be stuck on this platform or social media, I wouldn't recommend it. I would seriously just have the kids just have their own phones at the age of 17. I would just confiscate them if that is like the biggest concern. And yeah, if they are going to have it, learn platforms, understand, set up your own channels, learn the back end so you can help them understand how to learn it. And the best person to teach a kid is perhaps even the parents. So coming from a teacher who had kids from the ages of, how old did I have them? I had kids from the ages of like 6 all the way up to 17. So I've seen the age, like the growth, even though I don't have any kids, teaching the kids from those ages I got a chance to experience. Ages at such a different pace and their mindsets that it was very interesting. So that's just my take. I have this boy who's also, ooh, it's hot, Dior. It's hot. Ooh, aren't you hot? Hey? Hello. You okay? Let me see your nose. Your nose is a little dry, sir. Okay, and I think I've done my little chats, but I wanted to just, if parents are listening, and this eventually like goes out there into the universe, and the parents are panicking about social media, remember to watch this video, learn the back end, understand how it works, understand how it's mapped. If a group of parents were able to maintain and manage the back end, the safer the kids would be as well. So it's both sides, I think. I think both sides need to acknowledge that there are two ways around this. You got the parents, and then you got the kids. And if you see it together, like learn the mapping of the devices and the technology together, the better it is for everybody. Because now we're teaming, we're working as a team versus working against each other. You can't fight the kids because the kids are going to fight back. You want to make sure that there's an understanding, as they say, 6, 7. Okay, so that's like the whole, that's the whole thing. So let's work as a team. We got to work as a team in this. Okay, folks, thanks for joining me. Have a good one.